Today we're joined by former NFL running back and Super Bowl champion Ray Rice. He'll tell us how one moment in time changed his entire life and why faith, family, and community are the foundation for all that he is today. So hit that like button and subscribe and enjoy the show. Welcome to Executive Report. Today we are blessed to have Ray Rice join us. So obviously if you're in Baltimore, you know who Ray is, and it's an honor to have him. For everyone else out in the world that might not know who he is, I'll read a quick little bio for you. So Ray is the former NFL running back who played 6 seasons with the Baltimore Ravens. He played college football at Rutgers and was drafted by the Ravens in the second round of the 2008 NFL Draft. Ray was named 3-time NFL Pro Bowler and is a Super Bowl champion. He's second in Baltimore Ravens franchise history in rushing yards, rushing attempts, and rushing touchdowns. And he's third in franchise history in combined touchdowns. It's really cool. So Ray became the topic of controversy among the 2014 offseason aggravated assault. But today, he's been able to successfully redefine his purpose through family, community, nonprofits, and just being an all-around great person. So it's a pleasure to have you here, Ray. Welcome to Executive Report.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
So I got to be honest, as someone born and raised in Baltimore and a huge Ravens fan, it's really cool for me to sit here with you. You were one of my favorite players. It's still one of my favorite people. And you know, when I think about your story, all the way back to college, you seem to have this innate ability of redefining yourself for whatever the need and whatever the purpose is. And for a long time, I mean, you were in the public eye 100% of the time. And not only does that have to have a lot of pressure, but it's got to change the way you act when you go out in public, just going out to a restaurant and having dinner and things like that. And it seems like that today, focusing on coaching and community and nonprofit work, without all that noise the NFL brings, it's really easy to focus on those things and be great at them. But I'm really curious from the NFL perspective, what's it like going through the daily grind? I mean, how much stress does that put on someone?
Well, they say proper preparation, prevents poor performance. Yeah. I think just being fully open and honest, right? I think my preparation to play the game of football was always great. The preparation for life was something that you just can't, I wasn't ready for.
Got it.
And without making any excuses, like I said, I put everything into that grind, like from going back to childhood. I told my mother when I was 11 years old that I would make it to the NFL. And so it's easy to say, me being the oldest child, I took on roles and responsibilities of an adult, even to the extreme of paying bills at 11 years old. So what happens when at 11 you're a man? At 21, when you get drafted, you become a little boy again. So it's kind of like your life is kind of going in reverse.
Gotcha.
And like you said, that grind of the NFL, I mean, how could you prepare somebody for, having negative, a couple $100 in your bank account to in January to August getting a training camp, and now you got $2 million in your bank account.
That's right. It's a big change.
It's a big change. So essentially, you get into that season, and everything just becomes business mind and work.
Yeah. And
it's like you prepared your whole life just to make it to the NFL, and then you finally have what you call an off season. Which is really not a word because you never have an off season. But the grind, it is a rigorous grind. Yeah. I was only able to really, I wouldn't say enjoy myself, but as a rookie, you're getting drafted. No one really, I kind of flew under the radar. But after your first Pro Bowl, it got to a point where, you could barely go to dinners without being interrupted and things like that. And I was always a people person, so it never bothered me to the extent where I thought it would become something where it took away from my family. But there were times where, like I said, my family, my wife, I didn't know that until she realized that we were going to dinner. And until she said, I'd like to just be with you.
Yeah.
I understand, we want to help people and do the right thing. And so it came to a point where we're going to dinner, but we couldn't be amongst everybody, so we had to find a private room and things like that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm not really a sheltered person. I really like to be amongst people. So, but respecting my wife, I had to do that. And even today, now it's that balance. Now it's like, if I'm going to dinner with my wife, all right, we got to find a babysitter for the kids.
That's true.
Because at the end of the day, that's not, quality time if we can't spend it together and, put our heads together and try to do what's best for our family.
Yeah, and you hear different perspectives from different players. I remember Jerry Rice doing his induction to the Hall of Fame, and he was talking about it was all business all the time. And then guys like Deion Sanders, where it was like, hey, we got to enjoy the ride. We're only going to be here for a certain amount of time, and just the different perspectives. But for those two guys, completely different philosophies. It all ended up pretty well for them. There were a lot of challenges, of course, along the way, but being under the spotlight 100% of the time isn't easy. I mean, in our preparation for today's episode, you mentioned that, the public eye saw you at your best and they saw you at your worst. And you've been able to rebound personally from that. And I think that's fantastic. But the pressure of the grind, like you talked about specifically for going out to dinner and things like that, I don't think the average person can really understand it until they experience it. Do you think that's true?
Well, I think that the more we talk about what we call average, right? I think the thing that I've always felt connected to people, right? And the thing that we call average is, all right, we're just talking about salary at that point, right?
That's true.
So for a guy whose salary is public and their faces can be seen, it's almost like, can LeBron James just go out and sit at a regular dinner table? He has to literally probably block the whole restaurant just to buy a piece of happiness. So it's like the more money you make in being an celebrity, the more money you really have to spend, for peace and happiness. Whereas when you talk about average, I've always wanted to be amongst, people. I was always just that kind of guy.
People person?
Yeah. So a lot of times, I would just be naive. I remember one time I went to Towson Mall thinking it was just okay when I was playing, right? And I remember literally getting, I went to a store, and once I found I was in the store, they had to close the store. For me just to get out. And I was just with a couple of friends. I'm not here with a bodyguard, security guard, and things like that. So, I just think once you talk about getting on the level of, the pressure, I just think the more money you make in the public eye and being a celebrity, the more you have to spend, to have that peace and tranquility, on your own. And then comes a double-edged sword if you have kids.
Yeah.
How do you make it normal for them? They always got to feel the pressure of being someone else's kid, and I'm doing that now with my daughter, but she's actually carving her own way.
I was going to ask, how are you doing it?
She's carving her own way. Be honest with you, some kids, they don't play football, and be honest with you, I don't run or hide from anything. So, just dealing with parents, and, they get to see something they really don't get to see.
Yeah.
That I am a hands-on father. I'm with my kids every day. I enjoy reading my son books to bed. I enjoy waking up, going, having breakfast out there ready for them. So the things that, when you're in that grind that you might take for granted, once you leave one grind, the next grind never stopped.
True.
And that's where kudos to the wife, man. I'm like, I don't know how you balance all this stuff. I guess that's why, if you play chess, you understand why the queen is the most powerful piece on the board. They get to move this way, that way. They could function where the king, as crazy as it is, the king can only move one spot at a time.
That's true.
So.
My wife's going to bring that up to me later after she watches this.
No, that's all right.
Look,
it's just something we know as men, right? If you know and you play that game, chess is the game of life. All right, women just have the ability to take on a little bit more. Men, we have the ability to do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
You can give us a task, just don't have us do too many multitasks.
I understand. So, you have a beautiful family. You're an engaged father. You're coaching youth sports. You're involved in nonprofits. And one of the things that you mentioned to me when we talked the other day is all of that revolves around the idea of never being afraid or ashamed to ask for help when you need it.
Absolutely.
And I think you also mentioned that sometimes you get so wrapped up in the career that some of those things just aren't at the top of mind. So how do you help these kids better themselves and make sure that they know when they need to ask for help?
Yeah, so my nonprofit is called Pipeline, the number 2 to prosperity.
Yep.
And, me, my wife, and a couple of my partners in New York, we realized that there was a need, especially around the pandemic. Like, I was seeing so many things during the pandemic, and I think we all have seen. But the one thing I've seen that there was a need for was, being on a grassroots level with these kids. For them to be basically going to school, socializing every day, to being now almost antisocial, where they're on a computer screen all day, and then they're just trying to figure out different creative ways. I felt like they were the ones who needed the most attention, not, disparaging any adults or anything like that, but I seen what it was doing to my own kids, right? And I seen a lot of my youth in New York getting in trouble.
So I was going to ask, pipeline to prosperity, right?
Yeah.
Is that a play on words of pipeline to prison? Because I've heard that phrase before.
Yes.
It is, okay.
So you literally that's why we came up with Pipeline to Prosperity, because we looked at, the numbers on kids that go through adversity, growing up in single-parent households, and the numbers are there. They're out there. They're more likely on a pipeline to prison.
Wow.
We said, well, why would we do that if we could step in, around the 5th and 6th grade era, whether you're in sports or life, we could be that funnel system to help you shape your situation.
Got it.
We don't believe in throwing. A wise man told me, you don't just throw people away.
That's right.
And if you're born, you can make a difference, right? And I've seen not only myself, but I've seen others, whether it was faith-based change or just changing an individual, just reinventing their identity, right? And so that's where it all came from. To be honest with you, the balance was just never giving up on a kid. And I was one of those kids where, they say it take a village to raise a child. I grew up with not a lot of resources, and today there are a lot of resources, but 90% of the time, a lot of people just don't know where to get them or know where to apply them. And I think that's where the nonprofit world could be really special in terms of, grants and programming and partnerships.
Absolutely.
Where I feel like Pipeline to Prosperity could be great is in partnerships. We want partnerships with school districts. We understand the work a guidance counselor has to do, but we also understand that some of these kids are raising themselves at home.
Yeah.
So
and
we're better.
Sometimes they're brothers and sisters too.
Yeah, we might not have the degree or doctorates and things like that to get into the school systems and work that 9 to 5. But the best teacher in life at this point is experience.
Yeah, that's true.
And we're just saying we'd rather work with you than against you.
Yep.
And I think that's a beautiful thing, because at the end of the day, I was one of those kids who grew up in Boys and Girls Club of America, where my mom know I was after school. She didn't have to worry about chasing me around, where now, Boys and Girls Club of America, great program, but, the overpopulation and things like that, it's not as big as, there needs to be other outlets for that now.
Yeah.
Rather than just, singles. It's just like Nike and Under Armour. They can coexist in this world, so it's not about competition in the nonprofit world. It's actually about saving a life.
That's right. So, this idea of the community involvement and the nonprofit, was that a bridge that really helped you transform your life personally after everything that happened in 2014?
Yeah, so what it made me do was realize that, like I said, I say everything without making excuses, but I think that if you ever want to do something special, you have to go back to the roots on where you understand where the problems I identified where I felt like it started.
Okay.
And that was going all the way back to childhood. So what did it do for me? It made me feel like I was one of those kids. Like, imagine I'm a kid growing up and the only thing I know in life is sports, right? And at 8, 9 years old, my dream is to make it in sports. But 11 and 12, I get in some kind of trouble. And I think sports is over. Where do you think that kid's going to go? He's going to go to the streets. Mm-hmm. That's what he's going to do. I mean, if the sports don't work out, but at the end of the day, now take it further. That kid at 11 years old doesn't get in trouble. He makes it, but now all he hears about is making it Division I. He doesn't go D1. Is your career over? No. But you might go to Division II school, full scholarship, and get your education paid for. Mm-hmm. So, but the problem is they're not really thinking about what sports or life can bring to you. Like, you're supposed to use the sports as a tool. Yeah. You're not supposed to throw everything into that one basket.
That's right.
It's just a tool. Making it to the NFL, making it to the NBA, making it to playing any form of professional sports is just like you got a better chance of getting struck by lightning. That's how small of it is of the world that plays professional sports. So what we're seeing is, just call it, there's talent, there's luck, there's being in the right place at the right time. Everything has to line up for you to make it to that next level.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't, I don't believe in backup plans now. That's where I believe in planning along the way.
Got it.
Because anytime you say backup plan,
that means
when was it ever going to be a priority?
That's true.
Everybody talks about plan A, plan B, all right. Like, be honest with you, I would compare everything to sports. Like, there's no such thing as a backup plan in sports. When we were down when we played against the San Diego Chargers and it's 4th and 29, there was only one play call.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's 4th and 29. It's Hail Mary in Madden. But Joe Flacco decides to throw the ball to me. Okay, there was no backup plan there. Yeah. I made that play 1,000 times in practice. Right. So it was plan A all along. But if you don't prepare for that, that's where the problems, I feel like every day has to be a situation of preparation. Yep. So that when these situations present themselves to you, not only are you ready for them, but you're prepared.
Absolutely. So and that's what you're doing with the youth now.
Yeah, that's right. That's the fun. Out. That's the fun in it.
And you mentioned that you were able to identify some things in your childhood that caused you some problems later on. And I'm just curious, did you ever get emotional or feel it and know in your heart that your fiance back then and now your wife was willing to make that journey with you?
Oh yeah, she's the real MVP.
Yeah,
we've known each other since childhood.
Oh really?
Yeah, we actually went to rival. Her town was I don't know out here what would be considered a rival town, but it'll be I guess McDonough playing against Gilman or something like that. But her town was Mount Vernon. I was New Rochelle, and that was the one thing. I'll be honest with you, I take full responsibility as a man, for everything that happened. I never really. It just pains me sometimes now, even when I think about her, she's the strongest person I know. But they wanted to label her a victim. She's I just don't like the labeling things for her because, she really sacrificed almost, her life just, and she got her own degree and things like that. But for her to help, raise this family, her sacrifice was a lot more than mine. I took the bumps and bruises on the field, but just dealing with, life itself, dealing with, there's no one that could tell me different. You got to be a strong woman to deal with a professional athlete.
Yeah, that's truth.
And just calling it what it is, to be able to sacrifice and say, I have to deal with him probably only 50, I would say less than that, probably 45% of him. Yep. And that's all I'm going to get. Because you got to bargain. these guys put more money into their bodies and, things like that. And I'm saying you just got to be a strong woman. Your faith got to be right. I'm not saying that's a problem. I'm saying is you got to be a really strong woman to deal with a professional athlete.
It takes a special person.
Takes a special person.
Absolutely. So I think you moved back to Baltimore, what, about a year ago?
Yeah, I'm moving on a year now.
Moving on a year. So what's on the horizon? So you're back here. Your daughter's about to start a new school.
Yeah. So the horizon's great. I've been working with the Pikesville Wildcats, but all youth football. So anybody who sees this, I understand sometimes we might have to play against each other, but the sportsmanship is there. I teach our kids, which is great. I'm not the head coach, but I got a, just great role around the program. And it's fun because, I think I'm a routine guy. Mm-hmm. So during football season, I just need a little bit that itch, right? I don't want to play, but it is so great to go out there on Saturday.
Get in that routine.
And get into that routine, that pregame warm-up, to hear the music, and to push these kids hard all week for them to go out there for that one moment.
And see the result, right?
And see the result.
Yeah.
And then everything that comes with it, like the good, bad, and the ugly, like I'm like, I just feel so blessed to be able to really pour into these kids. Like, we got kids that if they had a bad day at school, it's okay to tell them, like, yo, a bad day at school is going to end up a bad day on the field. So if you don't fix this, then we got to sit this week.
That's right. It's a domino effect.
I watched it last year, where the head coach had to sit one of our players who was a key player in the game, and he had to watch from the sideline. And I had to tell him, like, I asked him, how did that make you feel? He said, I feel like I let my brothers down. Well, I said, just now you understand that everything you do, has a domino effect. And I'm looking at him telling him that message. But I was really echoing something that happened in my own life.
That's right.
So I'm like, if you the top guy, your role and responsibility becomes that much more. So if you do something, it not only affects you, it affects everyone around you. So me saying that to him was like an aha moment for me, and it was very therapeutic because I'm almost felt like a therapist, but I was really trying to teach him life. And it sunk in, and we never had an issue the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for it.
That's amazing. So I've been hearing a little bit. I know we're over time, but we're just going to have to go over time.
Oh, that's
but I hear a little bit in faith in some of the words that you're saying. Do you have a strong faith base?
Yes. I grew up believing in God. My aunt was a pastor. Believing in she just my aunt that was a pastor just passed from cancer.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but it's unique that I can mention her now, and as far as the grieving part, right? And I think faith to her was everything. And right before she passed, her husband told us a story where if you have faith, you praise through the good and the bad.
That's right.
And she was battling cancer, and they said that during her treatments and everything, she was still praising God through all the pain and agony. Now, I'm saying take that situation for someone who's battling cancer, who knows, the end is near, and you still can praise, then I got everything to be thankful for. Because uniquely, I would never go on the football field without talking to my aunt. She would pray with me over the phone, like every day. Like I would not take the field on game day. I used to hear her service in the background. She would not stop the service. They would be in praise and worship. And then she would whisper a prayer to me, and then I would go on the field.
Yeah. It's funny. I think when you have that level of faith and you're grounded in that moment and in that way with God, anything bad happens, it's just a moment, and it passes, and there's something great on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And I really believe in that. Anyone can do it. It just takes some time and effort.
Well, that's the thing. I think the thing that faith and forgiveness both start with F, right?
Yep.
I think in order to have great faith, you got to have a level of forgiveness that's deeper than yourself. So that's where my faith grew, because I had to forgive myself. The first thing I had to forgive was myself. And I realized that after forgiving myself, a difference of opinion is not a deal breaker. So a lot of things that might cross my palate, about life and things like that, like they don't bother me anymore. At the end of the day, everybody's obligated to an opinion. I already forgave myself, so you were already forgiven before you even said anything. So, and that's kind of my approach, man. And I think that's what keeps me grounded. To be honest with you, I try. I mean, we all have our days to not take anything personal, but truly my faith is in forgiveness. And that's the only way you learn how to do that is through repetition. So, and so when things do come, it's like, I forgave him already. There's nothing much to
That's right.
to go about it. And I think, me not engaging really, I don't disagree with social media, but I'm not on it actively.
Yeah. I think there's more traps than good stuff in there.
Yeah, I'm not on it actively. So, I will be putting my nonprofit stuff on there. Mm-hmm. It will be ran by, a team of people. But me actively, I don't engage in, the everyday of social media.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your nonprofit, and this will be the last question, I promise. If people want to support the nonprofit, is it pipelinetoprosperity.org or .com?
Yeah, it's pipelinetoprosperity.com, but website is being built.
Okay.
So we do have like a template page where you can go on there, put your email down for notifications and things about what's going on and
Excellent.
Things like that.
Any fundraisers coming up?
I will be doing soon. I'll probably get that back to you, but a fundraiser soon. I'll probably be doing something to help out the cost of youth football.
Okay.
And, that'll be coming up in the next month or so. I'll be calling John from Jimmy Seafood. We'll be putting it together. But, sports is expensive, but that's not the reason why I feel like a kid shouldn't play. So I've even done it last year where you see parents, man, they're out there. But I would like to, ease that for them, especially when it comes to equipment, new cleats and stuff like that, man. These kids, it's not about spoiling them. Like I said, we have to give them the resources.
Yep.
And I'm okay with dingling a treasure out there for them to go get.
Yep.
But I'm also understand that what could be given can be taken away. They need to understand that. I'm preaching my own message.
So for all you people watching on YouTube, I'll make sure that we put the link both to the nonprofit as well as the fundraiser in the comments section as soon as we get it. So don't forget to hit the like button, the share button, and subscribe. And Ray, I really appreciate you coming in. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope we can do this again.
Oh yeah, man, I'm open to it, especially as the football season go. You could bring one of the kids on so they could tell you their experience.
I'd love it. I'd love to. Thank you, guys.
I appreciate it.